I think that's how Musk puts these.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this one.
I did, but I don't know the details yet.
So this is from the AP, link in the description, as is the other one.
What an incredible sight to see these.
Well, wait a minute. It missed the...
especially those three
didn't
inner
it?
ones, one
Let's
of which
see.
we're going to hopefully relight.
That was the objective, but here we have, I believe this is the ending.
Engines go out. It looks like we are losing attitude control of the ship.
Oh, there we go.
Lose contact with the ship. Unfortunately, this happened last time too, so we've got some practice at this. Now we've got a lot
practice.
of measures in place, like debris response areas where we coordinate very closely with air traffic control. We have a lot of measures put before we ever launch a rocket to make sure that we're keeping the public safe. Those worked last time, and they're actively in work right now.
And so this shut down a lot of aerospace over Arizona. So it's not without its flaws, but the good thing is that unlike a lot of the Titan and early Apollos, we're playing without humans in them. And the objective is that we're going to get good. I like the way he said it. We're getting a lot of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can still remember when the three was Gus Grissom. I don't remember who the other two were when they got killed. They were in the module and there was a fire. Do you recalling that? I mean, that was a real tragedy.
Which Apollo was that? Was that 3? Or was that one of the Titan?
I don't remember, but look up, Gus Grissom. He's the one astronaut I definitely remember was one of the 3 that perished.
Yes, I'm looking right here. So he was in the Mercury program.
Yeah, that's what I would. Yeah, that was pre-Apollo. The Apollo 1 crew, Grissom, White, and Chaffee. Now, were those the 3 that perished?
Yes. The command module interior caught fires before the planned launch. It caught fire and burned on January 27th. Here we go, because it was pre-launch on the 21st.
Yeah, they were still on the pad when it happened.
Because it's pressurized 100% oxygen pre-launch. Oof. Yeah, a lot of heroes, and you know, my grandfather he worked at Rockwell and Downey, and so he worked on every Titan and Apollo module and most of the shuttles. As one of the lead engineers there, and he said, "Look, these men and women. I mean, it's a tragedy when they're lost, but you got to remember, they wanted." To do this, and they knew the risks. And he was saying this in the mid 2000s. He said, or mid to late 2000s, when Barack Obama came in and effectively canned the space program. He said, "What's a shame is we've lost the spirit of exploration." It's all turned into, you know, he's a deeply Catholic man. He was very, very concerned about the turning of basically focus to self-actualization as opposed to, you know, purpose and exploration and learning, something that I think is missing.
Yeah, and so I was certainly, as I was growing up, I was infected with that spirit of adventure and spirit of exploration very much. Like I think I've commented on some of the previous podcasts, you know, at the same time that I was, you know, experiencing generally disdain over the Vietnam War, that was being countered by my sense of patriotism and excitement about our space program. I was really proud of that and really believed that we were going to be fully a spacefaring civilization by the 80s, by the 1980s. But, you know, things got sidelined and priorities changed. And now I think it's coming back. I think we're seeing a rebirth. I mean, do you get that impression, John, that we're seeing a rebirth of this spirit of enterprise, of adventure, of exploration, which to me constitutes the true American spirit and what America's all about?
100%. I think we're seeing that right now, and it's really being stoked by the current administration, they have a real sincere interest in American exceptionalism. And some people may not like that, but I think there's some good things that have happened with people who think that America is exceptional.
Well, let's just qualify that a little bit. If your version of it is we're exceptional because we can bully the entire world, that's one thing. If you say we're exceptional because we can lead the world and inspire the world with our vision of freedom, of enterprise, of accomplishment, of achievement, yes, then absolutely 100%. Let's have that kind of a competition of merit, of excellence. And
Correct.
that's what I want to see. I want to see America return to these high standards of excellence and achievement, and like nothing's impossible for us. And I think that's what America's founding is ultimately all about within the grand sweep of history. I think there was some special processes happening at the founding of America, and that's something we should talk about someday.
Well, at some point, we've touched on it before. We should talk about the Enlightenment and the different thought patterns there. But you really had this hotbed of thought that started in America, where it was ultimately, and in the West, you had it in Britain and in the United States, where man derives his value and his purpose externally from man. There's a greater purpose outside of yourself. And I think that's done the world a lot of good. I think it has, when you are living for something that's more than. And we see a lot of that in the folks who are doing some of the great work in space exploration, 100%. But we do see that the Chinese, they don't necessarily, not all of them, they don't have the same pursuit as we do at the moment, hopefully someday. But we see that they're pursuing space, and that's a good thing, I think. But if America wants to have a seat at the table, when it comes to exploring the cosmos, it might be a good idea, because we don't really have a whole lot of treaties, I would say binding or valuable treaties on the moon.
So at this point, it's almost a free-for-all.
Correct. There's two treaties that exist, and one is called the Moon Treaty. If you want to look at that real quick, this is the wiki right here that I'm pulling up. And the Moon Treaty has been signed by a number of different folks, but you'll notice when we scroll down to here, we could talk about the history. It was done in the 60s and 70s, where it was all fleshed out. Non-parties are the red countries. Do you see who's missing?
Yeah, no China, no Russia, no United States.
So I don't know if it's a very valuable thing. In 2020, we tried this again with the Artemis Accords. In this case, the signatory nations are in red. We have the United States and Canada, but we don't have China or Russia. So as far as you have China, Russia, United States, Japan, and you have a Saudi exploration.
Yeah.
But outside of those, outside of those five.
Interestingly, the Saudis are starting to really think about a space program.
They have the money.
They have the money, don't they? Yes, they
have
do.
The money.
How interesting is that? What a development.
Who would have thought that 30 years ago?
Not me. I wouldn't have been thinking the Saudis would be stepping up to the plate, but here they are doing it. So I say more power to them, because ultimately, of course, I want America to lead the way. But ultimately, I want the human species to become a cosmic species. I want civilization to become cosmic. I want humanity to move into space and become sort of the beachhead, if you will, for life, terrestrial life, sort of returning to the cosmos from whence it ultimately came, but in a much higher form now than some simple microbial extremophile, which is probably how life originally landed here. If in fact exobiology is the explanation. And I find that very intriguing, because I find this whole idea of directed exobiology to be just immensely fascinating, and opening vistas that are almost impossible to comprehend at this point, but not necessarily to go all the way from the nuts and bolts of what we're doing right now out into the extremists of, I guess, maybe even theological speculation. So they also are building, or they've completed, they were building a space telescope, the Chinese were, with the intention of rivaling Hubble. And the name of that instrument, of that telescope, is Zhuntian Z. I don't speak fluent Chinese, in case anybody was wondering. Xuntian. Zuntian. I bet you could probably, I wonder if Google Translator would have the.
Let me see here.
I like to get the correct pronunciation for words and names whenever possible. But however you pronounce it, it translates as survey of the heavens.
You had it correct. It was Zhuntian. I just pulled that up.
Oh, okay. Zhuntian. I had it. Okay. Hey, pat on the back to me. However, its resolution, oh, there it is. Yeah, resolution is going to be a little bit less than Hubble, but check this out. Its field of view is 300 times larger. And it's going to dock with China's Tiangong space station, which in 2021 was under construction. What is the status of the Tiangong space station? I think it's operational now, isn't it?
It was launched April 29th, 2021.
And that will become the way station for refueling and maintenance, the space station. Tiangong translates as, I like this, palace in the sky. There, palace in the sky. Let's see, China.
It was launched on April 29th, 2021. This is followed by multiple crewed and uncrewed missions and the addition of 2 laboratory cabin modules. The first was Quest for the Heavens, is the English translation. I'm not going to attempt Wenxian. And the second was Mengtian, Dreaming of the Heavens.
Dreaming of the Heavens.
In October.
Quest for the Heavens, Palace in the Sky. I think they're making their vision of their future pretty clear there, it sounds like. It looks to me like they're planning to go for it.
They are. So if we want a seat at the table, we probably want to get going. And we kind of are. NASA does have a plan. It's been put back a couple times. It's called the Artemis mission, as you know.
Right.
But the Artemis mission, the primary objective, I would say, in the meantime, is to find out, do we have water?
I think that's. I mean, I know there's scientific and academic objectives. Studying the composition of micrometeorites and other things. But yeah, I think in terms of the practical terms, I think the survey, the prospecting for water, is probably the critical mission of Artemis.
It's the long-term objective to be able to create a human launch system that can go back and forth between a satellite and near rectilinear its halo orbit around the moon as it's rotating around the Earth. It'll be doing this near rectilinear orbit. But what exactly is the long-term science on lunar water? That's something that people have been looking for years.
Yeah, because, going back to, even the 90s when what was it? Michael B. Duke was the principal investigator. This was a NASA program to determine the presence of lunar water. So they started looking at the lunar South Pole. And on January 6th, 1998, Lunar Prospector was launched carrying an experiment called the Neutron Spectrometer. And this experiment was designed to detect hydrogen, which would indicate the presence of water ice on the moon. So analysis of the initial data indicated water ice mixed in the lunar regolith at relatively low concentrations, such as 0.3 to 1% by mass. But up to a total of 300 million metric tons. So that's a considerable amount of water. But the trick is going to be able to extract that water into usable amounts from the lunar regolith when it's at such low concentrations. Now, what I'm quoting from goes back to 1991. So we've made considerable progress since then. And I would be interested in finding out what would be the technological capacity now to extract water ice or water from the lunar regolith, which, by the way, is simply the pulverized material that has accumulated in some cases to great depths on the lunar surface that resulted from the repeated bombardment of hypervelocity projectiles onto the lunar surface, which is why there are so many hundreds of thousands of craters on the surface of the moon. However, now it could be, and it appears to be, that at the lunar south pole, or maybe both poles, there could be greater concentrations of water in the form of ice. It goes on here, subsequent data indicates that the lunar poles may contain up to 6 billion metric tons of water ice. The neutron data maps for the north and south pole of the moon show the dip in the neutron signal, which is the blue and purple regions. I guess I have a graphic here, but essentially shows dark blue around the north and south poles. And that dip in the neutron signal is consistent with the signature of water ice.